Welcome to the SeelenFülle channel. Today we're going to dive into the hidden secret of gratitude that multiplies your money. And I want you to listen to this as if you were being handed an ancient, simple, precise key. One that has always been right in front of your eyes, but was never used the right way. Because there is a kind of gratitude that soothes, and there is a kind of gratitude that multiplies. The first is an emotional blanket to get through the day. The second is an energetic signature that reorganizes your identity, your behavior, and the way money finds you. Maybe you've already tried to be grateful, and even so, the bill arrived, the balance fluctuated, the fear returned, and you thought, I'm doing my part, I'm giving thanks, I'm visualizing. Why isn't it changing? The truth is, you're not wrong for feeling that. You were simply trained into passive gratitude, a gratitude that looks at the past and tries to compensate for the anxiety of the present. It works like a painkiller. It relieves, but it doesn't heal the root. And when the root is still scarcity, your field keeps emitting a silent question to life. Will I make it? And money, which is sensitive to clarity and consistency, responds with the same vibration. Instability, delays, crumbs, cycles. Now there is a secret inner technique that turns gratitude into a command. It's not magic, it's not superstition, and it has nothing to do with pretending everything is fine when it's not. It is, in fact, a shift in posture inside your inner world. Gratitude that multiplies is not born from the need to feel better. It is born from the decision to become the source. And when you become the source, you stop begging for outcomes and start holding a frequency. From there, money is no longer an unpredictable visitor. It begins to recognize you as a safe place. Pay attention to how passive gratitude usually happens. You give thanks when something works out, when someone helps you, when a bill is paid, when a little is left over. Deep down, without realizing it, you're thanking life for having escaped. You say thank you with a relief that carries a memory of danger. And that is subtle, but decisive. Your body records. The threat has passed, for now. That keeps your mind in survival mode. And survival is the opposite of multiplication. Survival contracts. Multiplication expands. This is where financial self-sabotage often lives quietly. It doesn't live only in lack of money, but in the habit of relating to life as if you are always behind. You rush. You calculate. You blame yourself. You try to compensate with effort. You promise that when you have more, then you'll relax, then you'll be generous, then you'll feel worthy. But your field learns to associate worthiness with results. And then, when results don't come, you feel smaller. When you feel smaller, you hesitate. When you hesitate, you lose opportunities, postpone important decisions, accept less than you deserve, negotiate against yourself, lower your standards, and without noticing, you keep teaching the world how to treat you. The secret inner technique begins with an adjustment that seems simple, but changes everything. You don't give thanks as someone who received something. You give thanks as someone who recognizes who you are. Gratitude stops being a reaction and becomes an identity. Instead of thank you because I got it, it becomes thank you because I am someone who receives, sustains, and multiplies. You are not thanking randomness. You are calibrating your signature of receiving. And here is the hidden point. Money doesn't respond to your request. It responds to your pattern. Your request can be big, but if your pattern is still programmed to feel guilty when receiving, uncomfortable when prospering, anxious when having, you create an invisible block. You may even attract, but you won't sustain. You may even earn, but you'll give it back. You may even grow, but you'll sabotage. Gratitude that multiplies is the frequency that dissolves that guilt and replaces fear with maturity. So I want you to notice, with honesty, how your body reacts when you imagine money arriving easily and consistently. Do you relax or do you distrust? Do you feel expansion or tension? Do you feel deserving, or do you feel there will be a hidden price? That reaction is the thermometer of your field, and that is exactly where the technique works. Multiplying gratitude is not a pretty phrase. It is the ability to remain internally stable in the presence of good. Because for many people, the pain isn't only lack. The pain is also the inability to receive without anxiety. When something good happens, you immediately think of what could go wrong. When money comes in, you already predict the next outflow. When an opportunity appears, you already imagine rejection. That is a mind trained to protect you, but it ends up pushing away what could free you. The hidden secret of gratitude is that it isn't only recognition of what you have. It is training your inner system to normalize what you desire. Now you will understand the difference clearly. Passive gratitude carries an energy of thank goodness. Multiplying gratitude carries an energy of this is natural. Thank goodness carries surprise. This is natural carries belonging. When you give thanks with surprise, you confirm that it is rare. When you give thanks with belonging, you confirm that it is part of your world, and money moves toward what is natural, what is coherent, what is sustained. The secret inner technique is to turn gratitude into anticipatory confirmation, without delusion and without denial. It's as if you create a memory of the future inside you. You are not lying to yourself. You are simply choosing a higher inner reference point. You say inside something like, I recognize the good that already exists, and at the same time, I recognize the good that is on its way. I am compatible with it. This creates what we can call the frequency of multiplication, because you stop vibrating need and start vibrating continuity. And how do you do this internally, without complicated rituals? You take one real detail of your present, something that is already true, and you use it as a portal into a larger identity. For example, you don't only give thanks for paying a bill. You give thanks for being the kind of person who honors commitments, who grows in capacity, who manages, who learns, who becomes smarter with money. You don't only give thanks for receiving an amount. You give thanks for having an open channel, for having skills, for having vision, for having the courage to move. You anchor gratitude in your character, not in the event. That shifts the center of gravity. You leave, I depend on what happens, and enter, what happens depends on what I sustain. When you do this, an identity shift begins. You stop chasing money as if trying to catch something that always runs away. You begin to operate as the source. Being the source doesn't mean you don't work. It doesn't mean you don't plan. It doesn't mean you don't respect limits. Being the source means you understand your value is not negotiable, and money is a consequence of the value you deliver with consistency. You are not a leaf in the wind. You are a magnet with direction. From here, you start noticing an old pattern that must be undone. Many people use gratitude to settle. They say, I'm grateful for the little I have, with a sigh that, deep down, is resignation. It looks like humility, but sometimes it's fear of wanting more, fear of appearing greedy, fear of failing, fear of disappointing someone. But your inner universe doesn't understand morality. It understands signal. And resignation signals, I don't authorize myself. Multiplying gratitude is different. It is humble without being small. It honors the little without marrying the little. It says, I honor what I have, and I expand what I deserve. Now I want you to feel the courage inside that sentence, because it changes your financial life from the inside out. You can be grateful and ambitious at the same time. You can recognize the now and choose more. You can honor your roots and still grow beyond what your story imagined. You are not betraying anyone by prospering. You are healing an entire lineage of scarcity. You are ending an invisible contract that said, to belong, I must limit myself. And when you begin to operate as the source, your behavior changes without forcing it. You stop spending to numb yourself. You stop postponing important conversations. You stop accepting crumbs out of fear of emptiness. You start making clear agreements. You start saying no without guilt and yes with presence. You start valuing your time. You start charging with dignity. You start investing with intelligence. And above all, you begin to hold an inner peace that does not depend on the balance of the day. That peace is the true initial wealth. It is the platform from which prosperity grows. Now let this frequency of multiplication enter you through affirmations that aren't empty repetition, but conscious alignment. Allow each phrase to be like a drop of gold settling into a calm lake, changing the color of the water little by little until the whole lake reflects a new reality. You are someone who receives with calm and manages with wisdom. You are someone who honors money and does not become its hostage. You trust your ability to create, learn, and expand. You recognize the value of what you deliver and allow yourself to be well paid for it. You do not need to punish yourself to feel worthy. You do not need to prove exhaustion to deserve prosperity. You do not need to choose between peace and success because you learn to grow with calm. You give thanks for what you have already built, even if it seems small, because you know it is the seed of something greater. You give thanks for your vision, because it is the beginning of every outcome. You give thanks for your courage to look at your finances with honesty, because honesty is the door to change. You give thanks for every skill you developed, for every fall that became learning, for every moment you decided to continue. You are consistent. You are reliable. You are a safe place for money to remain. You become someone who creates space for money, not only in the bank, but in your mind, your heart, and your choices. You release the guilt of receiving. You release the fear of growing. You release the feeling that prosperity is for a few. You understand abundance is not luck, it is coherence. You choose thoughts that sustain, not thoughts that sabotage. You choose words that affirm, not words that diminish. You choose habits that strengthen, not habits that drain. You authorize yourself to desire more, without losing your humanity, without losing your kindness, without losing your truth. You give thanks as someone who confirms belonging. Money is welcome in your life. Opportunities are welcome in your life. The right clients, aligned projects, profitable ideas, and healthy partnerships are welcome in your life. You recognize there is space for you to prosper without harming anyone. You recognize that the more you receive with integrity, the more you can contribute with presence. You do not fear increase. You prepare for it. You do not get startled by good. You normalize good. You do not chase. You become compatible. You are the source in the most mature sense. You generate value. You solve problems. You see paths. You honor your talent with discipline and honor your discipline with rest. You understand money's timing. No rush, no desperation, with consistency. You give thanks before you see, not because you are deluding yourself, but because you choose to trust your ability to move through and build. You give thanks for the flow that is already moving, even if still invisible, because you recognize signs, not only results. You recognize improvements, not only endings. You recognize doors, not only arrivals. You allow prosperity to be simple. You allow money to come through clean paths. You allow your work to be valued. You allow your voice to reach. You allow your presence to generate return. You allow life to surprise you with lightness. You do not need chaos to feel alive. You do not need urgency to feel important. You choose a wealth that does not shout, a wealth that sustains, a wealth that remains. Now, notice what is happening. These affirmations are not just sentences. They are training your field for a new response. Because the hidden secret of gratitude that multiplies is that it changes your worthiness pattern at the deepest level. When you give thanks as the source, you send your subconscious the message, I am able to sustain more. And then your mind begins to look for evidence of that. You notice opportunities that used to pass unnoticed. You catch details that used to be ignored. You start making decisions with less fear and more clarity. You organize what was messy. You seal leaks. You improve processes. You talk to people who can open doors. You move with intelligence, not desperation. And there is also a subtle energetic effect. Your field stops being a field of asking and becomes a field of permission. Asking carries urgency. Permission carries space. Urgency is like a closed fist. Space is like an open hand. And money doesn't like a closed fist. Money likes circulation. When you give thanks in the secret way, you are not flattering life. You are opening a path for circulation. You are saying, I accept good without conflict. And that absence of conflict is rare. That is why it multiplies. You also start noticing that, in many moments, what blocked your prosperity wasn't lack of skill. It was inner noise. It was fear of being seen. It was shame about charging. It was the habit of postponing. It was the belief that you need to suffer to deserve. And multiplying gratitude touches exactly these points, because it isn't emotional decoration. It is an identity adjustment. It turns you into someone who can sustain expansion without collapsing. Notice too how this technique changes your relationship with time. Scarcity always screams, it's now or never. And you make poor choices. You buy to relieve. You work past your limit. You accept anything. Multiplying gratitude whispers, there is continuity. And continuity makes you patient. And patience makes you strategic. And strategy makes you prosperous. You start acting like someone who builds wealth, not someone who puts out fires. Even if you are still coming from zero, you already think like someone who sustains. Even if the number hasn't changed much yet, your field has already changed. And the field pulls the number. Here is a question that changes everything. Do you want to use gratitude to endure life or to expand life? Enduring is surviving with dignity, and that already matters. But expanding is allowing your dignity to bear fruit. Passive gratitude says, I accept. Multiplying gratitude says, I receive and amplify. It is like a portal. You enter with what you have and leave with more clarity, more courage, more capacity, more return. And before we close, I want you to carry a simple, concrete, profound decision with you. Every time you feel relief for having escaped, transform that relief into belonging. Instead of thank goodness, bring inside you this is natural. It is natural for me to be paid for the value I deliver. It is natural for me to have money for my needs and my desires. It is natural for me to grow consistently. It is natural for me to have aligned opportunities. It is natural for me to be financially respected. It is natural for me to prosper with integrity. When you hold that naturalness, you become the frequency of multiplication. And now, make this a commitment to yourself. Don't use gratitude to shrink your desire. Use gratitude to increase your capacity. Don't use gratitude to tolerate less. Use gratitude to calibrate more. You were not born to beg money. You were born to understand your value and allow money to be an organized reflection of that value in the world. You are not someone chasing. You are the source that moves, creates, delivers, and receives. If something inside you recognized this truth, I want you to write in the comments one simple, direct sentence, like an energetic seal. I am the frequency of multiplication. And as you write, notice that you are not asking for permission. You are declaring a new pattern. You are leaving survival mode and entering abundance mode. You are ending the old story and beginning a life where money stops being proof and becomes consequence. I am the voice of the SeelenFülle channel. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and activate the bell to receive daily meditations and content for abundance, prosperity, and success.